has Christmas come early? I don't know. Has it come early for Simon Watts, the Climate Change Minister? He's just announced this morning 8 policies. And he says that New Zealand's on track to meet its climate change targets. I don't think anyone believes him, probably including himself just quietly. But he's also announced 8 new policies today as a result of the consultation that's happened, and 8 policies that will put New Zealand on track for net zero 2050. Although he says that New Zealand's net carbon zero target of 2050 could be achieved as early as 2044 as a result of the first and second emissions budgets. And the plan has, we'll talk about more about that later on as well. And also the Horowhenua District Council, remember, voting on the formal opposition to the Treaty Principles Bill. Too late. One council's already got in yesterday, Hutt City Council. So the Hutt City Council unanimously yesterday formally decided to oppose the Treaty Principles Bill. We'll talk more about that as well. But for the moment, and he usually joins us on a Thursday, but he can't today. He's going to join us on a Wednesday. We've got Craig Stobo joining us now. And Craig is there, I think. Craig, welcome to the show. Good morning to you. Lovely to have you on again.
Oh, thank you, Michael, and thanks for accommodating me on a Wednesday rather than Thursday. So great to be on your discussion. I have a Christmas present for you.
Oh, good, because yours is coming in. Oh, what's that? Is it a real one, or is it just a sort of metaphorical one?
No, it's a very, very big Christmas present. And I want to thank you for allowing me to talk about this over the last 12 months. But early this week, late last week, the New Zealand government announced that they would not purchase European carbon credits as part of our obligations under Paris 2030. So after talking with you for over a year, Todd McClay announced that they would not be buying them. Now, I've done the calculation, the math today, looking at the European carbon price, which is €66 per metric tonne, multiplied by our exchange rate, gives you a New Zealand dollar equivalent price of about $120 a tonne. It's estimated that we'll be short by about 90 million tonnes of carbon or CO2 equivalent GHGs by 2030, which is about a year's supply of our emissions. So if you multiply 90 by 120, I get a saving by not participating for all of us as taxpayers of $10.8 billion today. So isn't that wonderful news?
It's great news.
That we're not going to participate in that. So I want to thank you for allowing me to talk about this, and for your listeners, readers to, phone in or whatever they've done. That's got some complications attached around how we cooperate with others around the world on what they intend to do under Paris. But Todd McClay's clearly said that. So the Treasury said between $4 and $24 billion by 2030. Today's prices, it's 10.8 billion New Zealand dollars, which is a little bit more than our interest bill. And I think that's great work. So that's my Christmas present to you and to your listeners.
Oh, it's a very well. I'm glad you've pointed that out, Craig, because I've seen that in almost no mainstream media.
Nothing.
Why?
Well, I don't know. Can they do math in legacy media? I don't know.
It's appalling.
But
you're right. That's a mess. Listen, you've told me this. Where did you get that information from?
It came out of articles from media around Todd McClay saying they will not be buying EU credits, and Minister of Climate Change saying they'll work with other countries on what that means. And I guess that sort of goes to COP 29 as well.
Yeah, it does.
How do we not participate in that transfer of wealth from developed to developing countries? But I'm pretty heartened by that. So we're being more realistic and pragmatic as Kiwis should be, rather than signing up for international obligations that just don't make a lot of sense during a cost of living crisis. So
no,
great news.
Well, the government's just come out.
That's the size of the prize.
No, well, that's pretty good, and I'm delighted to hear that. And that's fascinating, because that hasn't been reported by the mainstream media at all. And yet, as you say, it's the biggest item of expenditure loss or revenue that we don't have to pay, certainly over the last 12, 14 months, I have to say. That's extraordinary. Listen, mate, just on that,
So
Climate Change Minister Simon Watts has come out this morning. I don't know if you've seen it, and unveiled the second emissions reduction plan. Have you come across that yet? It's just being released as I talk to you now.
Yes, it was flagged to be released before Christmas by Rod Carr, the foreman.
Well, he's just done it now. I don't know if Rod Carr's going to be very happy, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm looking at it, but I think the big thing here is that they are introducing agricultural emissions pricing from 2030 and incentivising the uptake of new technologies. But essentially, I don't know what that means. I mean, I imagine that they're introducing agricultural emissions pricing, but we don't know any more detail about it than that. And I guess they've pushed it out 6 years, and they are really hoping that a lot of those new technologies will remove or at least reduce the problem for them, yeah? Oh, we've just lost Craig. Okay, we'll try and get him back. So that big news from Craig just then, $10.8 billion is the estimate of which we would have had to have purchased carbon credits from the EU, and that's 10.8 billion New Zealand. Yes, that's amazing. All right, but you would have expected much more media commentary on that. As I talk to you now, though, Climate Change Minister Simon Watts is releasing the plan for a net 2050 target. He says we can get there for 2044. I would imagine there's going to be widespread upset from the green sector of folk. Are you still... okay, we're still trying to get Craig Stobo. I don't know where he is. He was joining us early for a large extent to do with this issue, but I don't know what's gone wrong there. All right. Yes, the other 8 policies that Simon Watts, as that comes back, is that 8 policies will have the greatest emissions. They are going to, and this is an issue for everybody who has gas. Now, and I wanted to talk about Craig this morning. If when we finally get him back, hopefully we can. But it looks like if you have gas, and I'm talking about reticulated to your home, or if you have it reticulated to your home or delivered in a bottle like we do, that is going to be not only made much more expensive in the next year or two, but the suggestion might be that they might be phased out entirely as energy companies get out of providing it. Now, we will chase the story for you, but it looks like at the moment, because we haven't been finding any more gas, and because it hasn't been moved to New Zealand, and because it is considered persona non grata by the previous government, this New Zealand gas shortage is going to mean that some gas simply will not be supplied. It will not just be an increase in the price of gas that is reticulated, but no new reticulation will happen into houses. And in actual fact, you may find by 2030 that no gas comes into New Zealand at all. We will pursue the story. It is a story that is going to cause enormous upset, can I say, to consumers over the next 5 or 6 years. Craig, nice to have you back again. Thank you. I don't know what happened there, but it's good to have you back again. Listen, mate, the emissions trading scheme, the agricultural emissions, when they say they're going to introduce agricultural emissions pricing by 2030, does that mean they haven't actually thought about how to do it yet?
Well, you might recall under the previous regime, there was a commitment to get to methane agricultural emission pricing by 1st Jan 2025. The current government decided to bin that, and between now and 2030, they're going to come up with another kind of pricing mechanism for methane. That was confirmed in the strategies announced yesterday by the Climate Change Minister. One of those 8 kind of buckets of things, supporting Electrify New Zealand, getting rid of a whole lot of policies that the previous government had put in place, from a just transition to the things like changes to CERT, which is the kind of industrial scheme that was being built up, or funds that were being built up, climate emergency fund being built up from the sale of units and in the ETS. a lot of been binned, and they're simply going down the track of technology, 10,000 EV meters around the country, a focus on Electrify New Zealand announced by Minister Brown a few weeks ago. So it's very much simplified. They've chunked down all the stuff that was put in place 3 or 4 years ago. They've binned that, and they're focusing on the ETS, making sure that forestry is planted, for example, on available Crown suitable land, and making sure that it doesn't go into prime pasture. So it's a much simpler, less complicated approach to climate change.